This video is not intended to encourage or glorify any kind of drug use. The sole purpose of these videos is to educate you on the dangers of what these substances can do to you. Please do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video. I repeat, do not do any of the acts mentioned in this video.
Welcome to the world of Tales from the Trip.
This report is written for the reason that there are so many research chemicals out there, and that so many people, myself included, who are willing to do them and have no idea what is in them. This is a cautionary tale, one that I hope will make people think twice before snorting, shooting, smoking, plugging, or ingesting a chemical they know nothing about. I have tried just about every type of drug I could get my hands on since the age of 13. The list goes on, but my preferred drug of choice has always been stimulants. Cocaine and methamphetamine were two of my all-time favorites. In 2011, I had lost my last connection to illicit drugs, and an NBC Dateline special alerted me to drugs that were being sold in head shops and online: bath salts. Ignoring all of the bad things they had to say, I concentrated on the good: euphoric, cheap, and legal. I immediately got online and found a site where I purchased $40 worth of bath salts, which turned out to be 500 milligram packages of White Rush. After it arrived in the mail, I researched it for months before I ever tried the stuff. If what I found was true, I had MDPV. Eventually, I worked up the courage to try it, but to my credit, it actually took 8 months. All the things I had read about it made me very leery, and I valued my brain too much to be so reckless. Well, the time and the place finally arrived, and it got me very high, but it was somewhat scary. After using one full package over the course of several months, I threw it away, deciding that it was too dangerous. Trip reports I'd read told of people binging on it for days and succumbing to psychosis. I did not want this to happen to me. About a month after tossing it, I was jonesing again, so I returned to the internet to see what I could find. My research turned up VIP champagne shoe deodorizer. After much debate, I bought a gram, and when it arrived, I waited about 2 months before I tried this one. I couldn't find, in all my investigations, what the active chemical in it was, so I decided at one point it was probably MDPV. Sounded right. I wound up doing the gram in 4 separate occasions, finding that snorting this stuff did nothing, but smoking and IV usage were very pleasant. It was like cocaine and similar to the White Rush, but I could use it over the course of 8 hours or so and not worry about any heart-related issues, as had been the problem with MDPV. When the package was gone and I wanted to order another, the manufacturer had stopped making it. Several months went by and I ordered and tried many different things, none of them with any good results. Arctic Rush was one, did nothing. Lifted was another, less than nothing. And then I branched out into Kratom and Salvia. In January of 2013, I saw that VIP champagne was going to be available again, in a new formula. 2 actually. One was in a gold package, the other in a red package. I ordered one of each to the tune of about $40 per. Once again, the same thing. It arrived and I left it alone for a while until I finally had the proper amount of time and courage to try it. As with the other version, I couldn't find what was in it, but the biggest difference was that this one came with a warning. Do not use this product with alcohol or any other substance. I think that was a big reason I didn't touch it for so long. I like drinking beer with everything I do. One Saturday after work, and only a couple of small things to do the next day, I was drinking beer and smoking weed, and after consuming a pizza and passing out in front of the TV, I awoke and suddenly decided I was going to try the VIP champagne in the gold package. It was a powder with little chunks, so I eyeballed and laid out what I thought was about 20 milligrams and snorted it. 30 minutes later, I felt my heartbeat rev up, coupled with a slight sense of euphoria, but not enough to make it worthwhile. Mostly I just felt jacked up. Fearing for my safety, I popped 2 milligrams of Xanax I had on hand just in case. About 30 minutes after that, I felt my heart rate slowing, and now that I felt like I was safe, I decided to try smoking some. Here's where the trip report truly begins, but where my clarity of what was going on ends. I placed a small pile on tinfoil, the same amount I snorted, and found it burned right up. The buzz was intense, highly euphoric, awesome. It lasted maybe a half an hour or so before I felt like I needed more, but that is approximate. I totally lost control with this stuff, much like I always did with cocaine and meth. I soon lost focus on how much and when I was doing it, although I shifted from smoking to shooting. Shooting this stuff was really good, the buzz was very powerful, and I was having a blast. I actually have no idea what I was doing while doing this drug. I honestly can't remember. I blasted away for about 8 hours before deciding to pop another 2 milligrams Xanax and stop for the night. I slept for 3 hours and woke up knowing where I was, what I was doing, etc. And after completing the 2 tasks I had to do, in an alprazolam haze, I drove and I barely remembered doing it. I returned to my place and decided to start shooting and smoking the VIP champagne again. I used it all day for probably 12 hours, and all I can say is that I spent that time attempting to write emails and texts and doing stuff on my computer, but all of my physical abilities were wiped out. Seriously, I couldn't even write a 2-word sentence without it taking an hour, but that was okay with me. I felt so good. I remember making phone calls to anyone in my Rolodex, anyone who would pick up their phone. I sounded fine and clear, but my memory of all this is vague and my motor skills were shot. By 11 that night, I decided to stop because I had to work the next day, and using only Benadryl, I got about 6 hours of sleep. My personal hell started after that. Because of a crazy erratic heartbeat, I wound up ducking out of work and went to an urgent care by about 10:30 that morning. I told them the truth, showed them the IV marks, begged for something that would make me feel better. The doctor gave me 20 milligrams of propranolol, a drug used for high blood pressure. This brought my heart rate down, but it also made me dizzy. I made it through the day, but my problems were far from over. When I tried to sleep that night, I found that every time I was right on the cusp, just about to fall asleep, one of my limbs jerked, instantly awaking me. It went on like that all night. Any stimulant abuser has probably been through this before. I had experienced this once or twice before from a combination of cocaine and heroin. It generally lasted one night and then went away. Not this time. It went on for 5 days before I was finally back at the urgent care, begging the doctor for a sleep aid. She prescribed 50 milligrams trazodone first, and when that didn't work and I went back to her, she prescribed 2 milligrams lorazepam. That did work, but the efficacy was diminished by the 3rd night, and this sleep twitch was far from gone. Here's where the story can get long and drawn out, but I'll boil it all down into its major components. I went to see my doctor and he misdiagnosed me, telling me the drug had opened up within me, latent bipolar disorder. He wanted to put me on Seroquel. I went and got a second opinion, and that douchebag was worse than the first. He told me to seek psychiatric care. I went to a psychiatrist and she listened, deemed me to be a drug addict, and gave me a limited prescription for Ambien under the condition that I see her again for reassessment. I then told my doctor this, and he prescribed 30 milligrams mirtazapine, then medical marijuana, then 5 milligrams ropinirole. This drug is for Parkinson's and on low doses restless leg syndrome. None of them worked, and some, the ropinirole, had very nasty side effects. Finally, at my rope's end and ready to commit suicide, I confessed all this to my parents and they flew me home to see a doctor of theirs who then referred me to a neurologist. The neurologist set me up to do a sleep study, at which time I was diagnosed with exaggerated hypnic twitches and prescribed 0.5 milligrams of clonazepam. He had heard of this disorder. It is mostly seen in meth and cocaine addicts. That drug finally worked. To this day, 14 months later, I still suffer about once a week from these sleep twitches. The neurologist hypothesized that they would go away eventually, and he was right, but they never are completely gone. And as of yet, I haven't done any stimulants. I am able to drink alcohol and smoke weed occasionally, but sometimes I get the twitches from that. Other times stress causes them, or going to bed too late and being very tired. This is very lengthy and without dosage and or an actual trip report, but what I can say is that the high was like cocaine and heroin combined, stimulated and alert but with no motor skills. It was a good buzz, but it certainly wasn't worth the $10,000 it cost me in doctors, treatments, loss of work, embarrassment at being such a druggie, etc, etc, etc. Before trying some drug you buy off the internet, I urge you to do some research first. If you cannot find what is in it, don't do it. And if it says not to combine it with alcohol or other drugs, don't. As bad as I felt throughout the sleep problem, at least I didn't overdose. At least I didn't die. I walked away, albeit much poorer. Be smart, be safe. Always know what you are putting into your body. You never know where it may take you.